Okay, can you give your name and spell your last name?
No.
Running from that barn
I'm
like a
practicing
bear
average
hell.
deposition this week, so I'm practicing. No, I can't answer that
Pack my things and headed out.
question. Paul Boden, I'm the
Lit
director
my
of the
match
Western
and
Regional
set
Advocacy
ablaze.
Boden, first name Paul,
Watched it burn as
and I
I
give my
rode
permission
away.
to rap to use his code.
What are bids?
Business improvement districts are what is often called a public-private partnership of the business community and property owners working with, quote-unquote, local government to improve the living conditions, meaning the economic status of urban corridors throughout the country. It was created for one reason and one reason only. They were created to improve the economic incentives for rich people to move back into the cities, which clearly across the country and but across this country, we see a massive return from the white flight of the 60s. And people that had families, communities that had moved out to the suburbs in the 60s for the front lawn and the driveway and the basketball hoop and the Andy Oakfree or whatever the hell their name was, and the Mayberry RFD shit that was so prevalent in culture at that time. The schools were better, the hospitals were cleaner, whatever. The grandkids of those people are moving back into the cities. They don't want to live in the suburbs. They want to live in the cities. And in order to facilitate that happening, for some reason, the idea that we can gentrify and improve the living standards in a community without displacing the current residents of that community doesn't exist. And that's the race and class aspect of this. The people that are living in the communities that these white people want to move into are not the same color or economic status of the people moving in. And there's a fear of us. There's a fear that, well, I want to live there, but I really don't want to live next door to this. And it's not a human being, it's this. It's whatever that fear is. And business improvement districts were like, well, shit. If these people are willing to move back, we don't have to do suburban Miracle Mile shopping malls anymore. We need to make downtown San Francisco, downtown Denver, downtown Portland, downtown LA, downtown New York, downtown Eureka, whatever town you want to talk about. We need to make that more white, culturally sensitive, and make that more enticing for the people of wealth to come and spend their time and move into. And it's ironic that the local governments are seeing that as economic incentive. They're seeing that as, well, that's good for government, but it's not good for the people being governed. It's good for the people coming into the city. It's not good for the people that already are being governed by that city. It's kicking us out of our city. So how could kicking a whole community of people out of a community be good for the government of that community? It's clearly neoliberal economics. It's clearly racist as fuck. And it's clearly targeted enforcement to rid a community of a group of people that the people that govern that community, not the people that live there, the people that govern that community, no longer want around because they want these other assholes to move in. And that's the business improvement district model. And the fact that as of 1994, they're able to get taxpayer dollars to do it tells you how entrenched they are with the local governmental structure. At the state level, at the county level, at the local level, they have a process of accessing tax dollars and charging rent to local governments for public space, of access to police departments that they use tax dollars to pay for. Well, geez, isn't that what we all do? Don't we all use tax dollars to pay for the freaking cops? But here you have contractual agreements where the cops only work for the bid, using tax dollars to pay for their time and effort, and respond only to the bid to rid us, to get rid of us. And that's the business improvement district model, and unfortunately it's been incredibly successful.
Tuckered out from the heavy load.
And how has the housing community been impacted by this?
The same way people were impacted by sundown towns, the same way the Japanese American Exclusion Act impacted people, the same way Jim Crow impacted people, the same way Basurero Treaty impacted people, the same way ugly laws impacted people. You have laws that theoretically are on the book to apply to all. And you apply the enforcement of those laws against a targeted segment of the population. And you aggressively enforce these laws when you're ready to move those people out of that area. And you keep chasing people out of where they live in order to move in the people that you want to live there. And we've been doing this since colonization. I mean, this is what we do. This is the Okies. This is the gold rush. We have been doing this since we created, and Israel's doing it in Palestine. We're not unique, but we are very good at it. And it's the same philosophy. Well, we, the white European rich motherfuckers, want to move into this community, so they need to leave. And that's the thing that to me is so important about this campaign. They can be anybody. They can be disabled people. They can be Native people. They can be African American people. They can be Latino people. They can be disabled people. We have all been targets. And I say we because I'm talking from a human being perspective. Human beings, different human beings, have all been targets of these enforcement campaigns before. Today, it's homeless people. We weren't the first. We have been the target in the past, but we weren't the first, and we're not going to be the last. And if I was Muslim American, I'd be shitting in my pants right now, because this shit is spread. And you see it with street vendors, you see it with homeless people, you see it with SRO residents hanging out in front of their hotel. And all of a sudden, that sidewalk ain't yours anymore. You see it with young kids of color from the projects hanging out on the corner, and all of a sudden it's a gang injunction. Where the hell did that come from? It's 5, 6 kids hanging out together on the corner where they live, and they're being called a gang. And they're being called a threat to public safety. This is, I don't want to see you, you need to get out. And that doesn't mean go into your house. That means get the hell out of my neighborhood. And that neighborhood keeps expanding as the white flight back into the urban corridor keeps expanding. And you need to get way out of that neighborhood in order to be free of police and private security harassment. And vigilante harassment is kicking up big time as part of this campaign where they're evil, they're threatening, they're dangerous. Always it's they, it's not us. Always it's them, it's not human beings. And they're a threat to our community, and we need to rid our community of their presence, even though they were there.
Ain't no roots gonna hold my body.
How are business improvement districts able to push through pedestrian malls or take over whole streets and block them off and privatize them?
Money, the same way the railroad companies were able to get the whole west coast of the United States. It's about money. The same way tax credits are given to Twitter and other tech companies when we don't have money to build affordable housing. Money. We are and have been for a long time a neoliberal government. What's in the best interest of America is what's in the best interest of the corporations in America and the people that run the Oregon. And you look at who owns those buildings. The ownership of those buildings, the people that walk around, that are there, politicians come and go. Staff, groups like ours come and go. The people that have been there from day one are the corporations and the rich people, which is one and the same. I don't even know why we separate that out. And the business improvement districts, from their mindset, is, well, we're probably not going to get away with urban renewal again. Like, it was so brutal. It was so blatantly racist. Redlining, well, the courts have kind of decided redlining isn't actually legal. So we're going to do business improvement districts. They are strategically brilliant, and they are incredibly concentrated on building wealth. And so they figure out strategies, and they have the money and the resources. In California, the Business Improvement District legislation that gave them access to the property tax dollars, which is not unique. They have access to that everywhere. But in California, it took 4 separate bills before they built the power to get what they wanted in the first place. Who's got the money and the resources and the ability to pull that off? Rich motherfuckers. And the fact that they own the politicians, the fact that they write the legislation, the fact that they fund the campaigns of the politicians that vote on the legislation cannot be taken out of context with what we see actually playing out on the street. And if anyone doesn't think that urban renewal is happening again, instead of the redevelopment agency bulldozers, we have the business improvement districts. It's the same philosophy, it's the same mentality, it's the same racism, it's the same classist bullshit, it's the same end result. But it's a different tactic based on a different time and era. What did we get into this? I'm sorry.
How much of city and county decisions are made by the business improvement districts when they look at inclusionary zones?
None of them. They don't make the decisions. They control the people that make the decisions. And that's where the organizing is so important. Actually, in reality, and granted, it may just be a matter of time, they absolutely, heavily, concentratedly, 99% wise, control people that are supposed to be making the decisions on our behalf, but they don't make the decisions. They write the legislation, they fund the campaigns, they court the politicians that vote on it, but the only decision the business improvement district can make, and until we get our way, they still can, but we're gonna change it, is forming the district in the first place. But what happens after that? How much oversight there is, how much monitoring there is, whether or not they get paid by the city for public land, like they do. They don't make that decision. You would think they did. They don't. Very rarely, almost never, is a decision made that they didn't push for. But technically, they have not taken us over to that point yet. And if we don't do something really goddamn soon, we might be sitting here saying, well, in Union Square, the Union Square Business Association decides who can be in the park, or what the hours are for people to be in the park. In Portland, we wanted to have a demonstration against bids. We were told by the city of Portland to go to the bid to get a fucking permit to have a demo against the bid in Pioneer Square. That's a public space. And the fact that we were told, in order to protest the bids, you have to go to the bid to get a permit because they run Pioneer Square, like, that's off the hook. That should scare the shit out of everybody. And I really hope we can make that happen very soon. I'm sorry, I have no idea what you're
Do bids
talking
hire
about.
private security to police the blocks around businesses?
A big part of the role of business improvement districts, as they see it, is the expenditures on private security, and they call them ambassadors, they call them outreach workers, others call them straight up, and they have two levels, at least 3 levels. One is they hire cops directly. The other is they hire private security, and the other is they hire ambassadors that they put little monkey suits on and parade around with brightly colored jackets to give people directions to the Starbucks or whatever. And that's the face that people see the most. And then they hire a couple of, like, kind of, they hire a couple of broke-ass homeless people to clean the streets, because, of course, a homeless person wouldn't be qualified for any other role than to empty the trash cans and sweep the streets and do that, right? That's what homeless people do for them. And they call it job training, and they pay them substandard wages. But that's our welfare system does that. So that's not unique to them, but they parade it really well. As the bids frame it, they're the eyes and the ears of the local police departments. And if they see somebody sitting on the sidewalk, not anybody, somebody sitting on the sidewalk that shouldn't be sitting on the sidewalk, they're going to make sure that's addressed. If they see somebody panhandling, if they see a busker playing the guitar, if they see, if they see an artist selling their wares on the street, like what we consider vibrant city lifestyle, people playing music without a permit, God forbid people that live in a public space go to a public area to play music. Like, why is that a crime? Well, because the bids ain't getting a cut of the panhandling money they're getting for playing their music. If they pay the permits that go to the bid, they can play their music. If they don't pay the money that goes to the bid, it's a crime. And that's where everyday citizens need to recognize we called these places neighborhoods for years. We called this place public space for years. It's now public-private space. Private controls the shit. And it's not even called a neighborhood anymore. It's called a business improvement district, a economic empowerment zone, community benefits district, whatever label they want to give to it. We used to call this shit our neighborhoods, and we need to take our neighborhoods back.